Hi, my name is Sharon Pemberton, and I'm here to give you a PowerPoint presentation on the semiotic tradition of culture and society. First, I want to talk to you about the history of semiotics. Semiotics was created in the early 1900s by Ferdinand de Saussure. He was a French linguist, and he looked at language or the signs, and he saw that they could be looked at in two ways: as a signifier, which is like the mental image of something, and the signified, which is the physical image of it, of the same thing. The other person is Charles Peirce, and Charles Peirce looked at signs also, and he broke them down into three parts, and he said they were icons, symbols, and indexes. An icon is the physical representation of an image, and the symbol is the image, but it cannot exist without the signified, meaning the physical image. And an index, which is a culturally learned image. So we're going to see how all of these come together in this semiotic tradition. Okay, this picture that I found here on the internet, and I do have permission to use it. What I really wanted you to see was that it breaks down all of the signs, the symbols, the icons, the signifiers, the signified of the semiotics, and it really makes it understandable. I mean, it was like I saw this and I could really understand what it is that we were looking at here. And see, the signified is like the physical, the signifier is that mental image that we have when we hear the word dog. And the dog can mean something, a fluffy little pretty animal that you have around, or it can be a ferocious beast, depending on how you were presented or how the animal was presented to you, and it becomes the signified. So this animal right here is the dog. So this is the signifier, the word dog, or this image that we have. And here it is. Here's the physical image, the mental image of a dog, the physical image of a dog. So that's how the signifier and the signified works. So and that was de Saussure. Now Charles Peirce, he broke it down into three types: the icon, the symbol, and the index. And I like Charles Peirce's a little bit more, because if I can see it. The icon is a physical representation of an image. Now, like here, this right here, you see two people. They represent people. The tree represents a tree. The country represents a country. Those are icons. They represent what they say. So that one is easy. Then we have what we call the symbol. Now the symbol is a little bit different, because the symbol cannot exist without the signified. Meaning that we look at this sign right here, and it's a do not enter sign. So we know not to enter, because we have that, we know what that represents. And then we have this peace symbol. And then we have this symbol right here of recycle. And what's really interesting about these is that these symbols represent ideas, but they're not. But there is no. That image is there, but it's based on what we know the image to be, or that physical representation that's signified. Then we have the index. The index is really interesting, because it's considered to be the cultural learned mental image. So we know that this is a thermometer. We know that this is a clock, and we know that this is a tornado or a storm. Those are the the cultural learned images of those. So this is the overview of semiotics. So this picture right here is going to show us how everything works together. Now here we have this, it's a sign. It's a sign of a fish. This is the signifier. The signifier is that we have this mental image of a fish, so we know it's a fish. It signifies the physical image of a fish. We have, it's also an icon. Again, this is excuse me, Charles Peirce. And Charles Peirce says this is a physical representation of an image, the image of a fish. It's also a symbol. And the symbol cannot exist without the signifier. So we know this is a symbol of a fish, and it represents that physical image of a fish. And it's an index. It's a cultural learned image. Why is it a cultural learned image? Because it's the Christian symbol of a fish also. And in it, each of these letters are symbols that represent Jesus Christos Theo Eis Soter, or Jesus Christ, Son of God, Savior. And my Greek is a little rusty here. So all-together, this one sign, we can see all the different types of this word that de Saussure and Peirce looked at. And I thought this was a great image to use. Now I want to talk to you about communication and what it is. This is called the ethnology of communication. And what it is that without communication, we wouldn't have language. Language is, communication is inherent to humans. It's part of who we are. It's part of what God gave us to become as humans. He gave us the ability to speak, to understand, to respond. All those things are part of communication. And the ethnology of communication is the ability of the interviewer to interview, but to be part of the interview process. I thought this was fantastic. It's like you live in the world of the interviewer, of the interviewee rather, and you immerse yourself into that culture, and you learn to appreciate that culture, and then you have to form an ethical bond, because you cannot destroy what you've created. Meaning that people are trusting you with the information that they're giving you, and you in fact have to hold what they've told you close to you. So this is ethnology of communication, being immersed into a culture and learning about that culture firsthand and experiencing it firsthand. Now, performance anthology, which is also, I think this is probably the best part of communication of semiotics, because it's performance. It's being active, it's being personal, it's the movement, it's the gestures. It is taking what the anthologists learn and putting it into practice. And what do you mean by practice? It means that what the ethnologists learned about that culture, they show it back in movement, in dance, in music, in singing, and performances to show what that culture is about. This is called performance anthology. Now, it's not just theater. It's poetry. It's music. It's sharing. It's being part of that community. Anything that needs to be given back. The active personal movement and gestures. And this brings me to the last slide that I have. And it's this wonderful picture. And I call it wonderful because it's a picture of slavery. And here is the preacher, and it's a mixed congregation. And it's the movement, the activity. It's being active in the praise, in the worship, what we were meant to be, what God created us for. And that's what anthology is all about. That's what communication was all about. That's why we were created, to worship Him. The words, the action, the movement, the praise, all those things as part of communication. Well, I just wanted to thank you for coming into my kitchen and listening to me about communication, about semiotics, which I think is a fantastic theory. And I just thank you for being part of this for me and listening to me for this 10 minutes. And again, thank you for coming to my kitchen.